Reverend MeeLing. Thanks for tuning into my channel, official one from YouTube. Make sure you subscribe and like and share the ornery PSA. I've been known by several names. Reverend MeeLing, Reverend Susan MeeLing, my author name being Susan MeeLing, for the most part. And Lady Dori, Belle, and Lady MeeLing, and Lady MeeLing America, and so on and so forth. So, there was this guy that I've talked about a few times. I've kind of done a couple of articles in reference to this one particular piece of trash, in my opinion. Cactus Jack, also known as Jeffrey Kuykendall Jr. Who didn't see that coming? Anyway, probably him. Nonetheless, he had rent that he was supposed to pay. Like, he was supposed to pay rent. He was supposed to, when moving to Carrollton, Texas, after, he wound up showing up and that whole thing, he was supposed to pay the car note. And so, because there wasn't a mortgage in that regard. And so, there had been, similarly to Alicia, when she was a roommate and stuff like that, there had been several months that went by without any payment. In regards of Cactus Jack, also known as Jeffrey Kuykendall Jr., though, he had gone longer. And then one day, he said, I went and cashed a check or something like that after hanging out with Lisa, the manager at Nine Lives bookstore. And I was like, okay, cool. And he's like, here's, several, I think it was like 2 or 3 months or whatever like that. Here you go. And in cash. And I was like, oh. That's helpful. That works. That'll, I can put furniture here and do this there and so on and so forth. So, went to IKEA and got some stuff. And, whatchamacallit, he was like, that was the last time, he ever paid. It was like, And granted, my now dead ex-husband, then ex-husband, was overseas in Iraq, and so it was one of those, just to be on the safe side, I don't want to deal with certain things. I'd just rather be safe than sorry in that regard. So, in that, then there was, all the other stuff that I've already discussed in prior videos, as well as my website. There is a journal blog on there called The Ornery PSA. My website is www.susanmeeling.com. And so, I had already discussed other things as far as that 151 thing. And not to be rude, at all. I truly hope it is not taken as such. If there were ever any people who thought that just because Cactus Jack, also known as Jeffrey Kuykendall Jr., walked around where I was, that, I agreed with that 151 t-shirt, no. Not at all. My retarded thought was essentially, if I put him out there because he refuses to listen to me, irony of that thunder right there, maybe, just possibly somebody will be able to pick up on that and figure that out. But nobody ever asked me anything. Not about that. And it was like, okay, there were a few people who asked about his t-shirt, and I was like, oh, please do. Please go tell Patty all about your little t-shirt. Go ahead. Patty, please be smart. I don't know who to contact. And, please. And there were several other individuals and stuff like that. So like when it came to my open water scuba diving certification through Patty, which was also National Geographic, at the San Marcos Hot Springs, because it was in March of 2009, that was that portion of the certification. My son and my daughter saw me all suited up, and they were just like, "Mommy, you look like an astronaut." No. Wrong direction. Scuba divers go down. Down. Scuba divers go down. Astronauts go up, like in the sky. And so with that, then there was the whole, like, after certain things, because Cactus Jack, also known as Jeffrey Kuykendall Jr., had to wear that stupid 151 t-shirt, I surfaced and at the hotel, irony of ironies, like, while I'm discussing this, and it being scuba diving on top of that, and that whole landing at the bottom of the ocean in the mothiest abyss. And so, at the hotel and other times, Cactus Jack, also known as Jeffrey Kuykendall Jr., was like, "Your scuba friends like me." I mean, they really like me. I think they like me better than you. I don't know about that. I could be wrong, but I don't think they like you the way you think they like you, which is really ironic right now with this thunderstorm. And so, and again, with that whole whether you believe it or not. And so, Cactus Jack, also known as Jeffrey Kuykendall Jr., just, I don't think you understand. Like, I talked with a whole bunch of scuba divers. I was like, where were they from? Because the scuba divers that I was with, we were all down at the platform. We were all, with our gear getting set up. We were along the ramp before we went in the water. Who were you talking with? Because the scuba divers that I was with, we were all together. So I don't know who you made as a friend, but it wasn't the scuba divers I was with. And so, by technicalities, yeah, okay, you made possibly some friends that are scuba divers. However, the scuba divers that I was with, we were in the water. So, we were, that was after, getting dressed in our stuff. But my scuba instructors were with us. My class was really big. All of us were in the water. I don't know who you were talking with, but it wasn't the scuba divers that are my scuba diving class. They're still scuba divers. And, there is that aspect. But at that time, it was more along the lines of just saying, I don't know who you talked with, but it wasn't my class. It wasn't the divers I was with, at all, because we were all in the water. I don't know who you were talking with, but it wasn't international scuba divers. They could have scuba dove internationally. However, they probably were not from that particular school. And he just kind of, what? Yeah. Just gonna throw that out there. Just gonna, I don't know who you were. That's, boom! Good boy, he's scared. Because it's kind of funny about what I was about to go into after that, the irony of that. So, when I was in Washington State, I wound up speaking with Michael from 9 Lives Books, and there was a point in time I was talking with him on the phone, and I was trying to explain the scuba dive as far as like the Vandenberg, and he was telling me, oh no, and I was like, no, I think it was deeper, Michael. I think it was deeper. I don't think it's 100 feet. I don't think so. I don't think so. Like, I understand that online it says that it's this, but I have a feeling it's a lot deeper where the Vandenberg is. And I tried explaining the numbers and stuff like that, and then I said something, and I was like, well, what about, like airplanes? Airplanes fly like, what, 50 or 60,000 feet in the air? And he was like, no. And I was like, or not feet, miles in the air. And he was like, no, they airplanes only fly like however many whatever above land. And I was like, are you sure? He's like, yeah, no, I've done extensive research. And I was like, are you sure? Because like I kind of feel like there are quite a few, like I thought that there were, airplanes that were flying around above the earth at like 40, 50, 60,000 miles, like around. And he was like, no, even satellites aren't like that far away. I was like, are you sure? Because I could have swore I saw some. And I know the difference between like the airplanes taking off from landing stop. Are you sure that they're not that? I mean, I know I'm bad with numbers after my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000, but I'm fairly certain that there are, there have to be. I've seen them. And Michael was like, Lotus, because that's what a bunch of the guys at Nine Lives called me, was Lotus, because they had asked me what my middle name, my author name, MeeLing, it means, and I was like, oh, it's Cantonese for lotus blossom and innocent flower. My great-grandfather gave that name to me, and, they were just, okay, well, we don't want to call you MeeLing, because it should be MeeLing. And no, it's not supposed to be MeeLing. That is the Mandarin way to spell it, what you're discussing. My name is MeeLing. It is Cantonese, which it is different. And so then it was just, well, one of them called me MeeLing. That would be Ken Westmeyer. He called me MeeLing. And Daniel, he just called me Susan. Like that was just it. And then Michael called me Lotus or MeeLing. It depended on his mood. If he was in a bad mood, it could have been it could have been either Susan, Lotus, or MeeLing, depending on his mood. So, we just talked. And so I had explained that, and so I don't know if they wound up getting, I think I sent them copies, I'm not certain, but finding the silver lining and finding a silver lining that I wrote. And so one of the things that I had wrote about that happened was when I was on my apartment balcony, which is kind of funny because it was a third floor apartment, and it started raining heavily, like what you just heard. And I was out on the back patio, and this happened like several days or several weeks in a row. And then one day, it was raining like this, and thunderstorms and all that stuff. And then there was these really, really extremely bright lights. And then there were, I guess you could technically call it irony of the space thing. There were these, the only way I could describe it is they were wearing these heavy duty stuff. That's not really helpful. They had these face masks, and they had, long sleeves and stuff, and they had these, gloves and pants and these weird boots and stuff, and then they had these hoses that were coming out of their back that were kind of like scuba diving stuff, but not. And then they talked with me for a while. There was one guy, I'm not being sexist, I don't know if it was a male or a female, it's just an East Coast thing. And he had those really, like those pen size, but like smaller, like fairy sized flashlights. And it was so much brighter than the lights that were on whatever the ship thing was. And they were doing the eye check thing that a lot of my neurologists have done, and doctors, but mainly neurologists. And they're, look this way. I was like, okay. They're like, okay, we gotta get so-and-so to speak with her and all this sort of stuff. And there were some guys who came in, and it was all on the back patio. Like, it just is what it is. And so there was this one particular one, and he was like, okay, I want you to take a look at this, and look down at this, and, look at all these different ways that you can go from this very point you are at. And I was like, oh, I'm not willing to do that. 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 And the ones that were around them, they were just like, oh, she is the one. And so I look around, I'm like, the one what? And they're like, oh, you're the one. And I'm like, I'm the one what? And they're like, we've been kind of looking for you. And it's like, oh, okay. Did I do something wrong? And they're like, no. We knew that you would make it here, and all this sort of stuff. You'd survive, and explain certain things as far as soul stuff and whatever. And I'm just like, oh, am I in trouble? And they're like, no. But okay, and then there was a few other things that occurred as far as, whatever. And then it was explained to me for a few different things of some other stuff. And hasn't that happened to you? I kind of figured I wasn't the only person that they checked out and looked at and stuff. I kind of figured that. But then again, at that time, I also thought that I wasn't the only one who had gone scuba diving. And, the Vandenberg thing. I guess I was wrong on that. Because apparently I am the only person who dropped down as far as I did and surfaced alive and safe and all that stuff. And then the surface intervals and stuff like that. As far as, it's not surface interval, it's safety stops before the surface interval. And so, yeah, I just kind of, even that day, I was like, what? What's the big deal? After, yelling at who was assigned to me as my scuba, why didn't you see me at the bottom of the ocean? Next to the Vandenberg. Which apparently it wasn't the Vandenberg, because I went past the Vandenberg on my way to the surface. So, I mean, it is what it is, I did find those ships. So, I did have to swim around to get certain angles of pictures. And so, But yeah, this rain, I don't know if the phone is picking up the sound of the rain and then the thunder and stuff. Obviously the lightning, put the lights out for a little bit. But yeah, so when I was talking with Michael from 9 Lives Books, which is where Lisa Williams was the manager at the time, and then apparently there were certain issues with her that Suzanne told me about. Oh, huh. Boom! Irony! And so apparently that might be those guys letting humanity know pay attention. To that. So, you know, I had some issues with technology earlier. I was throwing a temper tantrum. They might have picked up on that. And so, you know, that's a whole other ball of wax. But yeah. Suzanne had told me that Daniel had to stop working at Nine Lives Books because of some issues with Lisa Williams, and Lisa Williams was dating Ken Westmeyer, and then at the same time had made comments about Cactus Jack, also known as Jeffrey Kuykendall Jr., and Cactus Jack, also known as Jeffrey Kuykendall Jr., had said that he used to do all sorts of stuff to flirt with Lisa, to try to get Lisa to go out with him, and she was just not interested whatsoever. So I don't know if that was some sort of whatever, but yeah, I don't have patience for that. That sort of stuff, I just, So, yeah. It is what it is. So, I kind of figured I'd do a video on that, because I figured that might be important to upload. So, you guys have a good one. Subscribe to my channel, Reverend MeeLing, the Ornery PSA. Share and subscribe. Have a good one.